Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Planet Film Network. Welcome back to another live stream from the Planet Film Network. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I'm your other host, TJ Cornwall, and we'd like to welcome back again Brandon. Hello, Brandon.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Pretty good. Real quick, just quick disclosure. I don't think we made a post about it, but our regular live show on Wednesdays is on hiatus until probably beginning of August. I just bought a house, so me and Danielle are in the process of moving into the house, getting it ready, and that is where we're going to be doing the shows from when we start again. So again, they'll probably be beginning of August, and it's going to move back to Tuesdays because I will now have a thing going on every week Wednesday that'll interfere with the show. So now it's going to be Tuesdays at 8 instead of Wednesdays at 8. And I'll probably tweet it out after this, but just if you're watching this and just, a heads up, I know it's probably been a month since we did a live show on the other channel, but that's what's been going on. But that will end probably beginning of August.
Yeah, and that goes for like the scheduled like PFN lives on Wednesdays. Like we're still, as you guys have seen, we've still been throwing up reviews. We've been reviewing Kenobi. Surprisingly, actually, we've gotten a Kenobi review up every week, which is like very good. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of reviews on the channel just to try and see, if we could branch out to that, see what we could get to stick and stuff. Just because reviews, honestly, like we have way more control over when to put them out as opposed to like the trailer reactions, which are not going anywhere, obviously, just with our work schedules and stuff. And it seems that every time they drop trailers, they drop like 5 trailers at once, and it's always when I'm in the middle of a work shift. And then I get out of work and I'm like, okay, well, there are 9 trailers released today. What should I do a reaction to? And then I just end up making a TikTok post about it instead. And then that,
that's the
goes out and everything. Yeah, to supplement
content.
But yeah, so check out some of the reviews we've been doing. Check out combination of me and TJ, and Brandon have all done Kenobi reviews throughout the season that are up on the channel right now. Yeah, so today, as you can tell by the title, we are discussing the finale and hinting a little on the overall season, how we think this came together, because obviously I think you can't really talk about a finale without talking about how everything wrapped up. And then probably right at the end, we'll just do a quick, like, where our thoughts would be on, like, a season 2 or anything like that. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Who wants to go first with, like, what did you guys just think overall? Let's go with Brandon first. What did you think, like, overall about the finale specifically? And then if you want to get into a little bit how the finale kind of informed how you feel about the show.
This episode was my favorite episode of any TV show ever. Of any TV show ever.
Any TV
show. It just the ability to pull me back into Star Wars. A lot of people that I've talked to know how much I despise the ending of the saga and just how it left a bitter taste in my mouth. But with Mandalorian, I thought that was just a really good show, and I didn't really tie it into the Star Wars canon. But now that this is like directly in line with the saga still, I like TJ said right before we started going on live that I wish I could have watched it again. Like, I love this episode so much. And then just as a series as a whole, I don't know if it's as good as Mandalorian, because Mandalorian has been continuously well done. It probably has like maybe like 1 or 2 episodes that are just pretty good, but this one episode is just, and I mean, I'm guessing one of these producers or writers or someone had to have listened to our podcast after we came out with episodes 1 and 2 review, and then the 3rd review, because the stuff that they added in the 6th episode, obviously not, but like the stuff that they added in the 6th episode was what we were all calling for. Like, we need this, we need this, we need this, and then it was all done in the 6th episode, which was fantastic because we didn't know if we were going to get that.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that for a lot of people, expectations obviously played a big part in this show and in this series as a whole. And I think that this episode really delivered on what people were hoping for, and kind of their, like, not wildest expectations, but kind of what people were expecting from this series. I think this episode delivered on a lot of that. I think the problem that some people are finding is, like, why did it have to take until the very last episode to deliver on some of this stuff? And then there are some people too that say still that it, you know, did not deliver or whatever, which I think is a little crazy to think that. But, you know, however you feel that the series landed with you, that's, you know, totally up to you and your opinion and stuff. We'd like to hear it. If you are somebody out there that it didn't land for you, you know, let us know why and all that stuff. For me, I would say I think the finale had, like, a lot of really, really good moments in it for me. I think overall, to me at least, I think it's the best episode of the season. I think it still suffers from kind of sloppy and, like, clunky dialogue scenes at times. I think it really kind of treads water in a lot of different ways in a lot of different scenes. But, you know, other than that, I think it was a very, very good episode. Like I said, with a ton of, you know, kind of like fist bump moments or whatever you want to say for prequel fans, original trilogy fans, just fans of Star Wars in general. I think it really hit the nail on the head with a lot of those. But I think also some aspects of this episode and the series overall, I think for me still really did not hit the way that I was hoping for. But yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now with it. TJ?
Yeah, this episode, the finale, I absolutely loved. I thought the whole battle between Obi-Wan and Vader was just off the charts fantastic. I said in, like, that quick TikTok review I did, like, they gave me it is probably more because they gave me exactly what I was wanting, which was the Ahsoka-esque fight, I guess, kind of. And I mean, you know, like, there are some parts of the finale that just are not as good as, like, the rest of it. And it really does come down to, like, the writing. And they just did the character of Reva and Moses Ingram so dirty. Like, I just don't understand how they, like, looked at that character and was like, yeah, that works. And I don't know, I think, you know, she deserves, like, another chance. I'm excited to see. And it's not her, actually, I shouldn't even say another, like, it's not her fault that the character just did not come out well. It's just, it had to do with the writing. For me, it had to do with the writing and the direction of the character. I would be excited to see, like, if she comes back in, like, another show, or if she has her own show, or somehow in canon. I think that'd be really cool. Because I think Moses Ingram is really good as that character. It's just, I think the writing was lacking. And like you said, like, the dialogue, we've been pointing out the dialogue throughout every single review, where it's, each episode is kind of like, just like, it just does not feel right. So, you know, I'd be excited to see her again. And overall, like, the series, I thought the series was good. It wasn't, like, great. It wasn't fantastic. But I would say that this last episode really pulled me back. I felt like there was a while where there was no 2-episode streak where it's like, oh, that was a really good, like, the first episode was good, and the second one was like, yeah, that was pretty good. Like, it wasn't great. But, like, I felt like 5 and 6 were like bang bang, those are really good episodes. And I think, you know, maybe a lot of people feel that way too, and where it kind of brought them back to the fold with the show, because I know, like, a lot of people, I feel like, were probably saying, like, well, what was the point of this show? Like, and, you know, there's been a lot of discourse too, where it's like just for, like, Soups, for example, like, people, like, coming after him because he had, like, that review, I think, of the episode 4 it was, when they were in the back to tank and then there was no flashback. He's like, this would have been a really good thing for a flashback, and then everybody was piling on him. I felt kind of bad for him. But yeah, I think this is a good start. If they were new, I'd be so down for a season 2. But I'd say that the series as a whole was good. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't knock it out of the park. There was definitely a lot of troubling points, but overall, I would say I was satisfied.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I think overall, I'm like satisfied with the show that we got. I'm satisfied by it. I'm not like over the moon with it. And I wasn't even one of the people out there being like, "Oh, this is gonna be, could be some of the best Star Wars, since the original trilogy or whatever."
Yeah.
I was hoping that it would be, really good with Deborah Chow going into it, all this stuff. I think a lot of us were really, really hyped on it. I mean, for obvious reasons. It's kind of the whole multiverse of madness thing. It's like, people like to throw around all the time like, oh, well, that's what happens when you get your expectations in the way and stuff. And it's like, that is true to a certain extent, but you have to have expectations going into a movie. You know what I mean? Like, maybe, it's a good thing to leave your reaction to your expectations at the door. Maybe just watch it for the first time, but also for some people that's hard. That's why people like to watch stuff twice too, is, you go, okay, well, that's not what I was going to get. But then, kind of redigest it as, what are they? Joseph Scrimshaw on Force Center always says, you have to interact with the story that is presented to you. You can't say, oh, but if only that would. And this is coming from somebody who loves like the Duel of the Fates script, and that's never gonna happen in any world. But you have to deal with the story that was presented to us. And I think with that, I think there are some definite high points, some definite low points. And I think the aspects of the show that is, I think, what a lot of people wanted, what I wanted with the Obi-Wan and Vader stuff, I think if you took all of that and added it together, it 100% delivers in spades with, glowing results and everything, like A++ on all that stuff. I think where my biggest problem with the series comes in is you take all that and add it up, it's like half the runtime of the show. That's it. We have basically two and a half, but basically 3 whole episodes where Vader basically it just isn't in them, with episodes 1, 2, and then largely 5, because he kind of just shows back up, 4 I meant, because he just shows up for that one that great scene, but just kind of that one scene where he's super pissed off at the fortress.
Right, yeah.
Which, was a great moment and everything. And also, I think I will say, I really enjoy to go to a positive before getting into anything negative too. One thing I'm not seeing people talk about enough, I really enjoyed the Inquisitors, like all of them. I mean, Reva, I think we'll talk about her and her storyline and everything kind of separately, but her and the fifth brother, and especially the Grand Inquisitor, who I was glad didn't just come back for that one scene, last week, that he also even had some play in the finale with some great lines. Again, kind of like what Palpatine says to him. I see we have 6 people watching. Just this is full spoilers. Kind of what Palpatine says to him in this episode of, are you sure your feelings for or your feelings towards your old master aren't clouding you on things? And I think that stands for a lot of new maturity in Vader and stuff, and kind of lends itself to the whole, now I am the master line. But I think what it really goes back to is at the beginning of the episode, the Grand Inquisitor is telling him, we as an audience know, he's telling him, hey man, we got to go after this ship. These people, they're not just gonna go and hide. They're gonna keep fighting. This is gonna grow into something bigger, which obviously we know, ends up being the rebellion and stuff. But again, Vader just shuts down the Grand Inquisitor, and he's like, that's not what matters. Follow Kenobi. Let the ship go. Which I think, really informs things with, where Vader's head is at and how wrapped up he's in, how many times we've seen this season where he says, straight up, just says, Kenobi is all that matters. And it is clouding him for like this entire season. You see how angry, you know, Vader is, and how kind of like what Yoda tells to Luke, you know, you rush to face him. Like I heard somebody, it was either Christian Harloff or maybe Dan Murrell or something, said it was like, you know, Mike Tyson, you know, trying to come back to the ring, trying to, you know, do these like haymakers and big blows and stuff, but he's just getting like beat up by all these like small moves and combos and stuff that he, you know, thought he was just going to come in and rock the place like Vader in this episode. But it's like, you can't win this with just brute force. Like, you can't just, because he's doing again that hacking, you know, at Obi-Wan's lightsaber, and, you know, he beats Obi-Wan down, obviously, finally gets the high ground after all these years, but you know, it's really not for anything in the end of it. But, you know, I'm kind of rambling on the episode, but Brandon, what are some other things that you liked about this episode?
Before I get into the episode, I just want, because you had mentioned the Quizzers. I also really liked the whole Leia aspect. I thought their relationship was also a huge selling point to this show. I think it's what really you can tie into the whole why we should watch Kenobi before we watch A New Hope or before we watch Rogue One or any of that, and if we go in order or whatever. But I really liked the whole Leia thing. But this episode, that fight scene, and it's ironic because like I was sitting by myself watching it in my classroom, and I had my head down. I was looking at my phone, and the moment where Vader's talking to Kenobi, and they're like he's getting really emotional. Like I was like starting to get emotional, and one of my co-teachers walks in and was like, "Oh, I thought you were just really upset." And I like looked up, and I was like, "No, I'm just watching my phone." But like it for real, I was like really upset. I was like,
yeah.
I did think it was too, like I talked to one of my other buddies when I was talking to him about like the episode, and he like kind of agreed with me that it did feel too much like the Ahsoka, like exactly like that.
Well, Ahsoka hits his right side, Kenobi hit his left side.
Yeah. I did see that too. I did see that when they like played it side by side, but like they do the same like lunge move and everything. But yeah, I also, they do a lot of callbacks, and I think some of them are hit really well, and I think some of them are like a little too much like that. But the whole aspect with Obi-Wan in the pit and looking up at Vader, even though that's not, I didn't think originally like, oh, he has a high ground. I thought of the mall scene in Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
And he's just like looking down at him, and like Obi-Wan's looking up at him, and so I felt it was very much like that. I thought he was gonna try something like that again, but kind of gets buried. But the whole voices in the head when he comes back and he has his like rebirth moment and uses the Force again, and then comes back on Vader. Yeah, like he hears all the voices in his head, and he kind of like turns that corner that we were talking about. Like he has to come to his own senses. That was the whole thing. Like when O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s like character asks him, like, "You're not doing this for like us. You're doing it for you because you want to." And I thought that was like a really defining moment of the show, because then it's like, all right, Obi-Wan is now finally turned the corner. He's gonna face him. He's gonna finally confront Anakin and try to. And he says it. He's like, either way, either he'll die or I'll die. Like one of us is not walking off this planet.
But it ends today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out they were fine. Both of them left.
Yeah, well, that whole scene when he says goodbye, Darth, like that hurts. Like, that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like that's how this is gonna end.
Yeah.
And then one last thing. I can't believe the ending happened with Liam Neeson. Now, like, I don't care if it's not really him, but like the fact that they actually included
that's him.
End, did he actually play that part?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What else would it have been?
Yeah. Where they wouldn't have gotten it anywhere. You know, they didn't. I don't think they had that anywhere in the.
Okay, I haven't researched enough into it, but like I just saw it and I was like, I had that moment. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like,
no, that was 100% him now.
Yeah, so that was.
What would you have liked him to come earlier? Probably, because
but it just wraps it up so perfectly.
It does. No, it does. You're right. Yeah.
Like it just ties the knot on the bow on top of the.
I just think
episode.
I think a problem maybe for a decent amount of people with the series as a whole is they really only did that maybe 3 times. He like calls out to him like in the first episode, then there's no mention of him in the second, and then maybe says something in the third one, maybe. And then it like goes up to like this moment. I know he says something earlier in this episode, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does, and I thought it was going to be at that moment. But...
That's what I thought. So like, and I think I'm one of those people too, where it's like I would have liked it to come in a little earlier, but it did come, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take it. Yeah, for that, like that, obviously the whole duel was my favorite part of the episode. I like you, I got emotional too when he's like on the ground, wet respirator broken, half breathing, half talking, like struggling to breathe, like
that voice effect is great.
I was gonna just say,
yeah,
the fact they were able to use both, like back and forth, was insane.
Yeah,
and it was perfect.
And I know, like maybe I don't know if you said and your friend agreed, and probably other people said like it was like the Ahsoka thing, but I just felt like that was a moment that like those two characters deserve with each other, just like like people watched Ahsoka and Anakin throughout all of Clone Wars. That is something that in that moment like means a lot, and to me I thought it, like, even though it's like the same treatment as Sean said, it's on the other side of his mask, which I know a lot of people are pointing out. It kind of comes full circle, the whole thing, but like I thought that moment was really earned just from what we've seen episode 1 on.
I liked somebody had tweeted that like Ahsoka got through to Anakin on the left half, took off the left half of his mask. Obi-Wan got through and took off the right side of his mask, but then only Luke could get through to take off the full mask and like fully redeem him. Kind of like what people obviously have always talked about, that like, sure, Obi-Wan could try to pull him back to the the light side, to the light and everything, but he's not going to be successful. Ahsoka could try, and both of them could probably get really close. Maybe the two of them together could have done it, but the only one person that could do it, was Luke in that moment. I'm sure if Leia had been in that moment, that would have been something too, that she would have been able to accomplish it too. But just with the history that, Luke and Vader had at that point for like the past 5 years of dealing with each other and everything, he was just ready for that moment. I thought that was a really good like symbolism too. That
it's funny, speaking of Ahsoka too, like when I woke up I saw on Twitter she was trending. I was like, I swear to God,
she's in it,
shows up for like no reason, because that's what she did in Mando basically, or Boba Fett.
Somebody was like, well, she could be with Bail because she's been Fulcrum for 9 years, and I'm like, what is she, just chilling on Alderaan and being like, shit, Obi-Wan? Like, like,
but yeah, I thought him like, getting the energy, or getting, kind of centering himself and, pushing all the rock. I thought that was so cool. Him like, when he's going after Vader like really hard, and he's like got him, like, I think they're like at a, what's it called? They're like tied basically, and he like takes the rock and throws. Stalemate. Yeah, takes the rock and throws at him. Like that stuff was so cool.
I loved some of the moves Vader was doing, where Obi-Wan was like standing there about to like hit him, and Vader like took a chunk of the ground out from under him, and so Obi-Wan just like slipped, and you just see all this like dust fly away. Like he was like playing dirty with the Force. Like it was great. And then obviously the moment you were talking about with where he pulls a Thanos, and actually Obi-Wan pulls the Thanos and slams all the rocks and everything into Darth Vader, which I guess it's probably gotta hurt. So I mean, I get it. Like people were like, why is he just sitting there? And I'm like, it still hurts. Like he still has a body. Like he can still feel it's still getting pummeled with rocks. It's not like he has a force field up or something.
But yeah, like I said earlier, Brandon, when I was like, oh yeah, I don't actually want to watch the full episode. I just want to watch that fight again. And that's about it. And those whole moments. Which, speaking of, obviously we had, that whole fight throughout the episode, but also we had Reva basically like kind of hunting Luke, and Owen and Beru trying to protect him. What did you guys think of that whole kind of thing? Brandon, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought it was a wholesome moment. I don't like how it ended though. I don't like the whole ending with that. I thought that was, if I was to have one complaint, it was about that whole ending. Like, she chooses to spare Luke because she sees herself, and then she goes to Obi-Wan after, and she goes, "Did I become him?"
It's like, well, obviously not.
Right. Like, I didn't really understand like the questioning
Yeah.
because I know she's like scared that she doesn't want to be that and everything. And she just wants her revenge, but she takes the high road. But it's like, you should know you took the high road. If you killed him and then you like asked, "Did I become him?" Like, then it's like, well, yeah, you did, because you decided to kill a young child out of revenge.
And I think, real quick, sorry, like another thing that also like doesn't really make sense for that character is where it's like at the end of episode 5, like he basically, which I don't know how she's still alive, because we didn't see her go in any back tank or anything, so
which I thought they were going to, because there was still a tank
Right.
on Jabim, but
yeah, but he like basically throws her away like a piece of garbage, and then she goes to Tatooine to try to kill Luke. But like, how is that going to? I don't get how that. I feel like because I felt like she was trying to get back into the good graces of Vader, but I don't understand how that would do that. You know what I mean? Like, it just
I
felt
don't
like
think she was trying to get into the good graces.
Oh, okay. Then why did she go there? What was the point then?
I think she was going to take revenge on Luke for Anakin and kill his son, because she found out it was his son. So she was like, "I'm gonna go kill Anakin's son."
But no, she didn't.
She didn't know that it was his son, though.
Yeah, she doesn't know that.
Well, no, it says about the children, and then it says, because like I'm guessing she.
Yeah, I mean, you could just say by the what I took it as is maybe just trying to take it out on a kid,
Obi-Wan?
a kid that seems to be an important thing to both Vader and Obi-Wan. That's what I took it as. Which, I mean, it works either way.
That makes more. I think that makes more sense.
I felt like she figured it out, but like that's why I thought her character needed to die off, because if she found out the secret about Luke and Leia, because of
that's a lot of information,
Organa thing, but like so I thought she was gonna die off, and that was just like
it's bad enough that she knows where Owen lives.
Yeah, and now like that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader and everything. Like, I thought she knows way too much, and I thought like she like at the end of episode 5 put it together, and that's why Obi-Wan like had that Force realization. Like, oh my gosh, Luke's in trouble because Reva found out that it's his son, and now he's gonna find out, or she's gonna find out that Leia is also the sibling.
I saw people complaining about the fact that they were like, how did he or why did he just sense it then, and how did he get to Tatooine like instantly? I took it as soon as we saw Reva on Tatooine and Obi-Wan still just fresh off leaving Jabim, I was like, well, obviously she's a little forward in time of what we're seeing. You know what I mean? Like, but I saw people were like, well, that doesn't make sense. And I was like, well, it just got to the right point. I mean, clearly she traveled to Tatooine, so it's clearly been some time. But I did like that. And also a criticism I had earlier, which I had said, we still haven't seen a full-on space battle, but one of the things that I was talking about, I forget if it was PFN Live or an Obi-Wan review or whatever, we were talking about was like, these Disney Plus shows, they're lacking like the space battle element. Like, I think it was episode 3 or 4 that we reviewed, that I was like, as much as I love seeing Vader, you know, I would have loved to show me his Star Destroyer. Like, why is he just standing on a planet in episode 3? You know what I mean? Like, show me his Star Destroyer, have him, hunting it. No, that's what I'm saying, is that we finally did get it in this episode. But I was just like, and I get that it's a budgetary thing, but it's like, if you have to make all these like tiny sacrifices, which really are like, do we need to see his Star Destroyer in every single episode? Absolutely not. Do we need to even see him in every single episode? No. But it's like, if you have to keep making these tiny budget sacrifices like over and over and over again, maybe it's time to, reassess the budget or something. Because I think a lot of that is what it came down to was,
Mhm.
and I'll say this, like we've known for basically every Disney Plus show so far, whenever we are like, oh, that episode, the CG wasn't great. It's like, I
Mhm.
think this with this show, with Moon Knight, with WandaVision, with Hawkeye.
Doesn't seem to happen with Mando though.
That is correct.
Maybe
It
it's just
it definitely
maybe
did not.
Filoni and Favreau just got a bunch of pull
Also,
for that
I
show.
think that Mando in its nature though is just a smaller scale show. It's getting
Uh,
bigger, obviously, which
yeah.
now has it might have me a little worried that, if it's getting bigger in scope but not bigger in budget,
Mhm.
I'm worried about the look of that show not cheapening, but a lot of the first two seasons is isolated areas with just Din and Grogu. You know what I mean? Now,
Mhm.
if we're gonna have all these Mandalorians, in full armor in a battle against the Empire, against the Imperial Remnant and stuff, like, I hope that they can still do all that convincingly on the budget. But I think one of the biggest issues, apart from some of the writing, was, I feel like, the budget with this show. What do you guys think? And I'm just gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, no problem. Um, yeah, I agree with the whole budget thing. I feel like each episode. I don't want to say each episode looked worse and worse, but I feel like this might be the worst looking Disney Plus show so far for me. I know Brandon, you haven't seen like you haven't seen like all the MCU shows, but have you?
No, not all. No.
Okay, but would you agree with like the whole kind of like when you were watching it, we're like, the CG looks a little off, like maybe it doesn't look good. Something.
Yeah, some of the scenes I felt like could do better with like
Mm-hmm.
either lighting or even just like the shooting aspect of it. But yeah, I didn't mention this a couple times. Like I thought that they could have just done it a little bit better, but overall, I still like like you said, I don't have much to compare it to, so I can't really
Right.
speak on behalf of like
Yeah.
Disney's portrayal in other shows, but I mean, it worked
Yeah.
for me. No,
I think
no.
if there's two kind of like problems people would have with the Disney Plus shows, it would be length, where it's like every show is like, except for Mando. Mando was like 10 episodes a season. But like this is like 6 episodes. I think like Hawkeye was around the same. Moon Knight was about the same. A lot of short, and then the budget. Like, it's not movie quality, I'd say. But I was gonna say this, maybe I'll say it again. When Trump comes back, but I would love to see. I would love to. I hope they get leaked somehow, like the scripts before they were all rewritten, because I just want to know like or like the story or whatever. Because I know they did a lot of rewrites and it was supposed to be a movie, and then they were like, oh, we're gonna do series, and then I think at one point Ewan McGregor was asked about it, and I don't remember what year it was, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we're like redoing like the story or whatever." Like I would love to see what that looked like, and I just like to see if the character of Reva had something more to do. Um, because like I feel like, again we've harped on it a lot. It's like it's nothing against Moses Ingram, the actor. It's like she's doing the best she can with what she's got. Um, but it's just like they tried to focus on like building the Obi-Wan and Leia relationship, and then they had obviously Obi-Wan and Vader. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, we have this Inquisitor that's kind of intriguing, but let's just we're not going to do anything with her." Are you you're in the same boat, right? I think we talked.
Yeah, because I think that like yeah, like you said, like her acting was still really good for like the
Hmm.
lines and the dialogue that she had because uh, I said it about episode 5 when Obi-Wan finds out that she's hunting him, Darth Vader,
Yeah.
that like she's really good at face acting too. Like she's also like
Hmm.
she at least gets me invested in her character, but like yeah, some of her dialogue with Obi-Wan, some of her dialogue with the other Inquisitors was just very, I guess, like I don't even know what the word is, just like not good enough. I can't even
Hmm.
think of the word, just like subpar. So, and that's nothing
Yeah.
against her. It's just like the Hayden Christensen effect in the first couple movies that
Hmm.
like clearly there were choices made that should have been changed or whatever, but
Hmm.
I'm with you too. Like I really wish I would have found out like what they were going to do. I'm not disappointed, obviously, with the whole series. Like I'd still give it really high marks in terms of uh overall performance of like a TV series that I would definitely watch again. I will say this too, and I've told you this, that I was watching Dragon Ball Z, and now this show has just made me completely want to stop and just go right to Clone Wars and go right to like all the other
Yeah.
Star Wars like series. Like
Mm.
I don't even care how long they are. I'm just gonna start watching them because like this is completely like rebirth my fandom of Star Wars. After the sequels or whatever, like I really lost it. I felt like, and I through Mando and now this has been
Yeah.
just like a completely rebirth of, like I said, like fandom of it.
Yeah, and especially Clone Wars too, because like there's just so much backstory with two like Obi-Wan and Anakin that like just you don't know about really. And I really should rewatch it too because it's been a few years since I watched it and I don't remember a ton of it. The only thing I really remember is the last season that came out, which was that like was that middle of 2020 or maybe end of 2020? I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I would definitely recommend watching that. What were you surprised by the Palpatine cameo?
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm actually really glad they did it. Like
Mm,
I said, like this completely like since I've only watched Rise of Skywalker once, it kind of
mm,
like it leaves a better taste in my mouth about these characters because that ending was so poor that like the
mm,
Emperor just like made me really that made me really dislike the Emperor, and I thought Ian McDiarmid was one of the strong points in the prequels, and like
mm,
so his appearance in this and even like his interactions with Vader and his dialogue with Vader is straight from 2005, like what you would
mm.
have expected at the end of Revenge of the Sith, and so I thought it was like you said, like it was deserving for all of them involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think he can still, I think he's just gonna keep like whenever they ask him, he seems like he just like loved playing that character, which I'm assuming, because he's been playing it since the
Mhm.
'70s. Um,
What I
so I
will
assume whenever they, sorry,
no, you
what I
go.
will say real quick is whenever they ask him to come back, I'm sure he's probably like, yeah, sure, whatever,
Hmm.
whatever capacity.
Especially given that he is only 77, we find out.
Yeah.
What's it called? So about the Emperor, I thought, like you said, the dialogue sounded straight out of 2005, but the makeup on him looked straight out
I
of
thought that looked really good.
83, and I was loving it.
Mm,
He looked like Return of the Jedi Emperor, where and
mm,
I've always thought this, and I don't understand why people don't. I don't know if I just think about it in a different way or whatever, but everybody's always like, oh, in Empire, in the newer cut, and
mm.
in Jedi, he's more like deformed and kind of like his face
Oh
is like
yeah.
droopy and
Oh yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
But then they're like in Revenge of the Sith, he's like this like monster face, and it's like, well, yeah, the injuries just happened.
Yeah.
Over the years it's gonna soften and change and stuff, and I thought they nailed his look perfect in between that just
Mm,
lightningified kind of and the more decrepit, still deformed, still the same injuries, but more of like the older like wrinkly face version of the Emperor. I thought they hit like the balance in this perfectly. And I agree with what Brandon said. Even everything with the storyline and the characterization of Palpatine aside in Rise of Skywalker, I just didn't really like the look. I'm like, you have a great actor like Ian McDiarmid, and you make him look, and I get it, he's supposed to be grotesque, but it's like
mhm.
he can't emote anything with his eyes because he's got like white contact lenses, and you give him a double
Mhm.
chin with the lightning, every 5 seconds, and you're like, like it's like his eyes are rolling back in his head, and he's kind of
Yeah.
doing a whole different thing.
Uh,
But I agree with you 100%. I thought his use in this was great. I thought that Qui-Gon going into the show, like a lot of people, was like an absolute foregone conclusion. I think the Emperor was always the kind of back pocket potential. So the fact that
mm,
we got both of them I thought was fantastic.
Mhm.
It just makes me pissed off that I'm like, man, all these people are alive. The Emperor's gonna live for another, I guess, 50 years. Vader's got another
Mhm.
15 in him. Obi-Wan's got another 10, and Qui-Gon died 25 years ago. What kind of
Right.
justice is that? You know that I just as soon as I saw Qui-Gon's ghost, I was like, all these people. Anakin was 8 years old the last
Mhm.
time Qui-Gon, physically saw him. At least, obviously you've seen him in the Force and stuff, but last time he physically saw him, he was 8 years old. He's now a
Mhm.
terrifying, murderous, 32-year-old gentleman. Uh, you know, and Qui-Gon's just been dead the whole time. Like I just felt so
Yeah.
bad, and it made me want to kind of, if you want to transition into, do we want a season 2 or a continuation of this or something? I would love and people say, well, what would it be about? What would any of it be about? Did we need a
Mhm.
prequel to the original trilogy? No. Did we need a
No.
sequel to the prequel and a prequel to the original trilogy again in this show? No. But we got it. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
um, so I would love a show about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, or anything like that. And also I love too the hot toy Obi-Wan figure based on the comics look. That's exactly what he's wearing in the end of this, with the pure
Mm.
white robes and the goggles and stuff. That is literally like, I'll send you guys a picture after we're done. But that is literally straight out of the comic books of what he wore and what he was doing, what he looked like. Because that was another thing for, canon junkies and stuff, like me. Like, I read all the novels and stuff, but I keep up with big events that happen in the comics and stuff, but I just don't have time to read all the comics that come out. I mean, it's just so many. But like, even I was like, well, what about, Obi-Wan's journal that Luke finds, and it recounts all these, exploits and stuff, and all these adventures
Mhm.
he had. It's not a journal about he's just sitting in a hut and then going to his meat
Sin-
shop every day. Like,
Yeah.
I was kind of like, how does that work? And the fact, literally, not only did the show leave it open for now this next decade is the Obi-Wan that we've seen in canon so far, of the more, we know in about 3 years from the end of this show, he's going to fight Black Chrysanthemum and give him a
Mhm.
cut across the face that we see in Boba Fett. Like, and I loved how they kind of connected all that stuff. I thought that really, really worked for me. So if we saw a season 2, I would just love it to be a smaller scale show. Give me the character, less of the, I don't know what to say, less of the PTSD and like traumatic side of the character, more about, okay, now that he's gotten over that and he's kind of back to, his moral center, if you will.
Mhm.
Give me an adventure that happens to him. Is
Yeah.
it not every show has to be, well, do we really need another Kenobi show? Well, we don't need another how Obi-Wan intertwines with the Skywalker saga episode 3.5 type of show like we just got. Um
Mhm.
but like the Mandalorian, just give me what is a Jedi doing in the time period of, between Order 66 and episode 4. I would love that. And if it means more like Liam Neeson or anything, I think that would be great. And it doesn't have to focus on the Empire or anything, but have the villain be Jabba. Make it like a Clone Wars arc. Make it like a big, Clone Wars arc or something. I just think that would be awesome. I don't think it has to be, you know, the end of the world or whatever every single time.
Right.
But what about you guys, TJ? Would you want to see like a season 2 or a continuation of these characters? In one way or
Um.
another.
Yeah, I would love to see a season 2 or continuation. Like you said, I would think it would be really cool to see like a show with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and their kind of talks or whatever you want to, whatever you want to set it in. Maybe not on Tatooine. Maybe we can. Well, I guess he's stuck on Tatooine. Maybe, but
Yeah.
he can have some other adventures. He doesn't have to. How many years is it till New Hope?
9 more.
9. Yeah, so we got a lot of real estate to work with. But yeah, and I think they're calling like now on Disney Plus, it's listed as like the season finale. It's now listed as like the series finale.
Yeah,
which
and
is a little
Kathleen
weird.
Kennedy even came out today. She said basically, "Oh yeah, we planned and we released it as a limited series, but if the people want it."
Oh
So,
my God, give
yeah.
me a break with the people want it. Of course they want it. Anybody says that they wouldn't want another season is probably lying. But yeah, I don't know where they would like go with it, but I just hope I just hope the dialogue would be better. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard me say to Brandon too. Like I would love. I hope that like something comes out like what the original story and dialogue and stuff was, because I just want to see like if it was if maybe if what they did with Reva was better originally.
Mhm. I
Because
think
I
she
know
just
because
wasn't even in it. I think that I think that like she was the recent addition.
because didn't Ewan McGregor say at one point like a few years ago that they were like overhauling the script and like redoing the whole thing?
Yeah, right before Birds of Prey came out, because they were like
Okay,
ready to
yeah,
start going that year, and then they
yeah,
threw out everything and basically did at the time they called it a page one rewrite, but with all the writing credits, that's not true. They basically did a page one kind of like cherry
Mhm.
pick rewrite where they added a bunch of stuff and kind of retooled everything.
yeah.
Um, but also like a crazy thing too is like the runtime of this show all added together is like 3 hours and
Mhm.
21 minutes. So it's like you shave like 40 minutes off of this show, which I think you could easily do.
Mhm.
I really think honestly, I think a lot of maybe episode 2 could have been shored up a little. Just some of the
Mhm.
flea stuff and like the kidnapping Leia and trying to find Leia and all that stuff. I think you probably, if you had cut out a decent chunk of that, you could have just had an amazing, 2 hour 20 minute, 2 hour 30 minute, 2 hour
Mhm.
40 minute, whatever, movie, um, with a movie budget, and I think it would have absolutely destroyed at the box office. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and also I feel like and I know we'll have other times to talk about this and stuff, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but um I just feel like the writing failed Moses Ingram and Reva as a character from the start, and also
Mhm.
just the core concept of her being in the show of this is not people are going to immediately have a hesitancy about her character, and about how deep, not even about her character necessarily, about how much her storyline it takes up of the show, just
Mhm.
because that's not, people think, well, that's not the show that we wanted. We wanted an Obi-Wan
Right.
Invader show. And they're like, well, it is an Obi-Wan Invader show, but this is a person who is kind of essentially a person who is caught in the crossfire of these two men, and she's kind of a direct result of the fallout of what their actions did. And on
Mhm.
paper, that sounds great. I love the conceit of Reva's backstory and a character and all that stuff. I just think that it wasn't particularly written that well. But I thought that Moses, especially in this last episode, killed it in the actual
Mhm.
performance. I think that once we kind of understood what the character was doing, because there were some people that were like, I don't know how she's doing, in the first two episodes when she was just
Right.
so brutal and so strong and angry and everything, like kind of like growling almost, like just over the top, but then you kind of realize, oh, that's just a facade, that she's
Mhm.
projecting that basically to survive. And then once you see that, you really realize she's kind of nailing exactly what they're wanting. I just didn't particularly think that what they were wanting was written that well.
Mhm.
But I'd be
Um.
down for the Riva spinoff if that's what they're
Yeah.
wanting to do. I'd be down for it. Just give me a tight personal story with her. And I'd love to see what atonement looks like in the Star Wars universe. That's what everybody always says. Anakin redeemed, dead. Ben redeemed, dead. Show me what it looks like to have someone be
Mhm.
redeemed and then live with their consequences. Try to atone for it. Make the world a better place, type of thing. So I'd be down for that.
Yeah. Brandon, what about you? Season 2? You'd like to see it?
I'm not a liar, I promise, but no. Um, the reason being, I think that they wrapped it up so well that I
Mhm.
would want the characters protected. They're like
Mhm.
from more poor writing. I don't want to see something go off the rails because of poor writing and then me not like it anymore. a spin-off like we were just talking about is definitely like what I'm more interested in. I would like to see more of that. I think when they have free reign with any new character, I feel like it's a lot less pressure on them and they can write a better story, write better dialogue rather than like worrying what everyone's going to really think about how it connects. And I know that's not for me. Like I don't sit there and like nitpick and like, "Oh, well that didn't make sense cuz in New Hope they don't really talk about like that." And like, "Oh, well Leia remembers her mom or whatever and when she talks about her." Like I don't really need to have that kind of continuity, but I know some people do and I don't want that to like destroy characters or destroy the show based on people's perception after that. I just think that this did exactly what I wanted it to do, and then it just wrapped up really nicely that I just want it protected. Because this is something I actually really, really enjoy from the Star Wars universe. And that I am all for any kind of other spin-offs. Like Ravo would be great if they actually focused on her more. Because, I mean, many people talked about how they felt like it was her show through the first 3 episodes rather than Obi-Wan and Anakin. So I think if they actually like took that and ran with it, it would be a lot more productive and it would more well received, and maybe you can get better writing out of it. But yeah, that's my whole opinion on it. I don't think. I mean, I would not be mad if they came out with more Kenobi because I love Ewan McGregor's portrayal of him, and I love the whole story and how they really did this. But like I said, I just really, really want that protected.
I think
one good spinoff too that I'm sure they probably have ideas too, but one cool spinoff that would be going back though would be a Tala spinoff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I would love a show like just called The Path, where it's give me like Roken, Tala, and Haja, with Camille, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Indira, everybody coming back kind of to show kind of the beginnings of the path or something. Or maybe you do something where you could even set it in 2 different time periods where it's like, one where it's like Roken and Tala, and then one where it's maybe Roken and Haja, after the events of Kenobi, obviously when Tala dies. Which too, I'll throw out too that. I mean, that obviously was a great moment from last week's episode. But yeah, and two, I think, overall, would I love the concept of the Qui-Gon, idea and everything? Yeah, absolutely. But I agree. I think just let this lie as the limited event, because there's more than ample opportunity to, Kenobi could pop up in Andor. Frankly, it would make sense if he popped up in Andor somewhere. If he's talking to Bail, helping out on a mission. I have an informant on Tatooine. Maybe Andor meets him, has no idea, who he is, obviously, because he just looks like a, now, especially with the goggles and stuff and kind of his look from the comics, he really is kind of making himself look more just like a Tatooine, scavenger type of thing. He could pop up there. Hayden, as we know, is going to pop up again really soon in Ahsoka. So it's like, now that they're kind of back on tap at Lucasfilm, essentially, I feel like we don't have to have an Obi-Wan season 2 to get these characters again. And I think that that's great. Now, what I would love from this, more than the path, more than Reva, anything like that, give me, I love how Disney Plus loves their limited run times and limited runs. Give me a solid, like 4-part Darth Vader series with, like Lords of the Sith type vibes, where it's just him and Palpatine either on an adventure or dealing with a conflict, anything like that. I think that this has proved moreover now, especially with the re-speecher tool that they did with James Earl Jones, that Darth Vader is now firmly a what is even the word? A forever character. You don't have to have any of the original pieces of Vader now to do that character. Is it great having Hayden under there? Yeah, Hayden's 41 years old. He can play Darth Vader for the next 45 years if he wants to. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he can do if he wants to be that voice or be under the mask or anything like that. You know, they have tons of time to do that with him. But I just the little glimpse of it, I would love so much more of just the interactions between Vader and the Emperor. And I know the classic, like, you know, wants Darth Vader Star Wars movie, and then it's like points to the Skywalker saga. The whole thing is about him, but it's like, well, the first 6 are about him. But it's, you know, I would love, because this show too proved to me that you can convincingly, you know, show that Anakin and Darth Vader are the same person, but at the same time they are not the same character. Like, they are so vastly different. And Vader's presence and everything, you know, he's just so commanding and so great in this series. Almost everything with Vader. I don't think that Vader as a character had a weak moment in the entire show. But you know, I think that would be really, really good. One thing I will say that just as like a canon person, or just, you know, with their relationship, is I didn't like, and this is such a tiny nitpick, but the scene with Palpatine, I didn't like that it was like just, there was just a little button on it that Vader was like, you know, no, Kenobi, you're right, you know, no, Kenobi means nothing to me. And he was like, you know, good, you know, I hope it, you know, you remember that going forward or something. I wanted him to be like, good, come to Mustafar, meet me and prove it, you know, because that's what we know from canon, is that he is like, anytime Vader puts even the faintest question mark in the Emperor takes his armor, throws him into a jail cell. You know, he does all this shit with him, and he's like, cool, now dig your way back up and prove to me why you're the number one. And he does it every time. I get now it's further along, and they, you know, they kind of trust each other more, if that, you know, even though I guess Palpatine probably shouldn't trust him because he's gonna throw him down a well, but you know, I thought that nevertheless, though, I mean, that's such a tiny nitpick, but because I just thought that would have been cool to just kind of set it up, like the story's going on even though we're not going to see it, you know, there's still stuff going on, but instead Vader, you know, it just kind of left Vader with like, all right, now I'm going to sit here and think about what just happened, you know what I mean? Like, it just ends with Vader just sitting there in his chair, and I'm like, I wanted kind of a call to action, that it's like, you know, this story's over with, but the Empire, man, they are charging, and Vader's got to go to his next thing. You know, I thought that would have been really nice. But either way, I really loved it. But do you guys have anything else that we haven't touched on, or Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru in this episode? We haven't really talked about them. They were fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, they held their own for about 2 minutes, and were rightfully put aside.
Yeah,
got out of the way. But no, that's it for me. Anything else, Brandon?
No, just great. I thought it was absolutely great.
Do you have an overall rating out of 5, do you think?
For the episode or for the series as a whole?
Series.
We'll go the series as a whole.
Okay, a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. There you go.
I'd probably say I'm around the same. I'm hovering at a 4, probably more 3.5.
I would give it a solid. I would say I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think which is surprising because I think I did have like issues. I had a lot of issues with it, with especially with the script and stuff, and some of the story, but mainly just the script I thought was really sloppy and repetitive at times. But other than that, I mean, it delivered on such great moments as Star Wars fans, prequel fans, Rebels fans, Clone. You know, if you love anything about Star Wars, essentially, except maybe if you're just a fan of the sequel trilogy, these characters obviously affect those movies, and there's 2 characters in this show that are a big part of the sequel trilogy. But you know, if you're a fan of anything else or have dived into any of it, you know, Obi-Wan and Anakin are such heavyweights in the first 6 movies, every television series, you know, especially Anakin, obviously. So I think it's just a really rewarding series for really any kind of Star Wars fan. Yeah, I mean, I loved it, but again, I still had issues, so I go a solid 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
And TJ, you are, oh yeah, you said like a 4 or 3.5 in that
Yeah.
area. Nice. Well, guys, let us know, what do you guys think? Give us your thoughts. Comment with some of your just overall thoughts on the show in general, but also let us know what would you rate this show, the series as a whole, all 6 parts, out of 5. Let us know that and more in the comments down below. Make sure to follow us at the official PFN on on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are posting multiple times a day reviews, reactions, news, everything like that. That'll do it for me. I have been one of your hosts, Sean Monk. And before TJ closes us out, I just want to thank our guest Brandon for coming on again, holding it down with us for the opening and the close of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
It was awesome. Thank you guys.
Of course. I've been another host, TJ Cornwell. Thank you for joining us. Follow us on all our social medias, like Sean said before. And as I said at the beginning of the show, coming back beginning of August, Tuesdays at 8 p.m., not Wednesdays. So we look forward to that, and we will see you next time.
Boom.